You're good. Alright, everybody, we're live here at round 2 of the AM division for Sim Racing Alliance. We're at Paul Ricard. It is wet. The AM drivers have just gotten underway for their qualifying round. We got 30 minutes of rapid laps, as many as they can possibly put in to see who puts themselves on pole position. I'm Travis Robinson, joined here by Kim Evan. We also have Doug Mitchell in the booth with us today. Hello, gentlemen. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks, Trev. Glad to be back here for another race for the Sim Racing Alliance AM series. Got a wet track today. The AMs are going to be struggling to battle close, but we'll see how they manage.
Yeah, thanks for the warm welcome. Super stoked to be part of the team this week. I am very eager to see how the AMs perform in these very sketchy conditions. A lot of people putting in great practice this week, so excited to see what comes of it.
Yeah, we have a lot of drivers who've definitely been putting in the works, and you're probably going to see that right off the get-go. They're going to be the ones that are able to actually put in valid times. With these types of conditions, as wet as it is, it takes a pretty skilled driver to even put in a banger that's valid. I imagine the majority of the laps that we're going to see today will be invalid, and they'll just have to hope that one of three laps are actually going to be between the white lines and count to put themselves on the leaderboard.
On that point, that's going to translate to the race quite a bit. If we're going to have a lot of people contested with drive-through penalties, it's definitely going to mix up the grid quite a bit.
Absolutely. And that's another thing, and a good point is for wet racing, and we found this out in the practice races and even in the pro race yesterday, that the track limits for wet tracks seems to be much tighter than what we're used to, and that came in a more recent update that ACC kicked off to us. And yeah, you could tell a lot of drivers were keeping trying to keep it as clean as they possibly could, and yet just making a small little mistake. Suddenly they were the ones that were picking up track limits, and you only get 3 or 4 of those before you get a stop-go 30. So it'll be interesting to see how many of the amateur drivers are able to keep it between the lines and have a clean race. That'll probably be the deciding factor for your top 10 finishers today.
For sure, composure is going to be the key to a win here. Got to put in a lot of practice and get comfortable with how much you can push the car. It's easy to get a little comfortable and think you can brake a little later, carry a little bit more speed, but you got to stay patient. And a car on track is a lot better than one in the wall. So we'll see which of the AM drivers can find that limit and keep it just under without pushing it too hard.
Just riding on board with one of the Guzman brothers, Carlos to be exact. He's finishing up his lap here. Carlos demonstrated that he has overtaking race pace for sure. Last week he put on a bit of a show. Both Guzman brothers did, to be honest. But I expect them to have a bit of a recovery drive. They both ran into some issues early on. I believe it was the other brother. Sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Jose. I believe he actually ended up disconnecting from the race. So what could have been a good race for him ended up in disconnection. So I'd like to see how they actually perform over the course of a race, and hopefully not come into any sort of technical difficulties like they did last week.
Yeah, there are several little groups of drivers on track, the Guzman brothers being one of them, that push each other to get faster and faster, so that amongst the grid, there are definitely pockets of drivers that have very similar pace, and it's going to lead to some great on-track battles this week. With that in mind, Evan, do you have any particular driver that you're looking out for this week?
I'd like to see Dae-hee Yun put it on the podium. He was a little unlucky in our last race at Silverstone, had a couple of just unfortunate timings with back markers kind of holding him back for a little bit longer than I'm sure he would have liked to have. But I think if he gets a clean run here and finds that composure and confidence, he should end up towards the top.
Who's in your back pocket?
My back pocket, I would love a recovery drive from one of my good friends and ex partners, Will Forsling. I know that he has pace. Just matters to how much practice he's able to put in. Will Forsling's he's a great driver. He's really clean and consistent. It just if he's able to actually put in the time throughout the week, he could have a really great race. It'll be interesting to see that kind of unfold over the course of the hour.
That clean consistency really bodes well in a wet race. I think that'll be a really good advocate for him. I have Josh Damiani in my pocket. I'm thinking that his experience being with us for our inaugural season and then all of season 1 is definitely going to really benefit him. Experience on track for weeks like this where all the conditions are changing and the brake markers are constantly evolving, it's definitely going to lend itself well to someone who's seen it all.
Yep, just having that one season under their belts it instantly adds a bit of advantage over the rest of the amateur field. And we've touched on it before. A lot of these amateur drivers, they are quite new to the game. They might have as little as just a couple of weeks of experience. This is a great division for them to get started in. But you also have the amateur drivers who have done a full season and they've been exposed to different types of conditions, and those different types of conditions can bode well for just jumping into any sort of race.
Yeah, absolutely. I think time and experience is going to be a deciding factor in the AM series and every week, but especially on a wet track. I think you'll find that a lot of these drivers are quite new to slippery conditions and haven't put in enough laps. Maybe don't have a sense of how much speed they're able to carry through the corners. So I think especially in the wet here, we'll really see the gap between those that have more seat time and those that hop in and take it a little bit more casually.
Setup is going to be crucial also. A lot of people just kind of gravitate towards the stock wet setup, and for tracks like this where you have an enormous straight, you can typically get eaten up pretty bad with the overall top speed being compromised because of how much downforce that wet setup comes with. So we'll see if some people take the gamble on whether they want to have top speed down the straight to help get some passing opportunities, or really keep that downforce together so that they can be stable through those high-speed corners and get that extra bit of traction in these slippery conditions.
Yeah, going back to our race even just yesterday for the Pro Series, the 3 of us were all in there, and in regards to setups, I definitely went the safer route of just having a high downforce setup. It was really, really stable in the corners, but I was a sitting duck in the straights, and that ended up actually compromising a big portion of my race where, sure, I was having great successful Sector 1 and Sector 3s, but I couldn't get around people in those sectors. And then, sure enough, I would lose ground in the second sector because they'd take away on the straights. So that was a frustrating point for me last race, and I wish in hindsight that I went the opposite route. But, then again, I was also probably one of the few drivers that didn't spin out throughout the race because of how stable I was. So in the amateur series, it's if you're definitely not used to these conditions, then yeah, a higher downforce, more stable setup is probably the way to go, and just understand that you're going to be compromising your straight line speed on that huge back straight there.
I took a very similar approach. I added a little bit of rear wing in hopes that the stability would make me a little bit more confident and a little bit more safe. And I could tell on the straights, those that took a riskier setup with a little less downforce were very fast down I think this is the longest straight in the game, if I'm not mistaken. And I also agree, in hindsight, it's easy to say, I wish I took less downforce and had a little bit more top end, but at the same time, you never know. You're kind of playing with fire. It's a little bit of a give and take there. For Sector 1 is that medium speed, need a little bit more downforce to get the car under your feet, but once you get on that straight, you really wish you could take it off.
Absolutely. Just quickly tuning back into the qualifying session here, the first group of qualifiers, we do 2 separate groups in the AM division. So the first 15 drivers or so, they're finishing up their laps now. We have Guzman coming across the line, finishing up his before he's going to have to jump into the pits. He's currently almost a second up on his time, and that jumps him up to P4. So a pretty nice final lap for Guzman there. Taflovich currently sitting on pole with a 2:09.1, and we have the second group of drivers heading out now.
Interesting to see Smooth Toad in P2. I think that's a new name in the upper ranks here. I know he's rocking one of the best liveries in the whole league with a toad on his BMW. But yeah, good to see him up there. That's a new face.
I thought frogs were supposed to be the water-friendly amongst the toads and frogs, but I guess he really comes alive in the wet. But speaking of which, it looks like the rain is supposed to actually diminish at the 30-minute mark. Not quite enough time for the track to evolve for the second grouping, but the weather forecast has heavy rain, so I'm not surprised to see lap times that are 4 or 5 seconds slower than the Pro Division we had yesterday.
Yeah, no surprise there. It does, you're right. It looks really wet there, and it looks like it hasn't really dried up throughout the session either. I don't see any sort of driving line that's even come to a remote formation there. So super wet out there, almost monsoon conditions. The fact that these guys are even keeping it on track and setting valid times is a pretty good way to start.
I even see some hydroplaning down the straight, so pretty sketchy conditions, but these guys are managing just fine. Pretty remarkable given the practice session was actually, for the most part, much lighter than this, so they're definitely going to test how well they can adapt.
Just on board with Tony Perenza right now, who's leading the second group of drivers out onto the field, and as I say that, he invalidates his time, so good old commentator's curse.
Got a little lap to play with here. Tires are still warming up. It's not a true hot lap, but you do want to get warmed up yourself and take the racing line. You don't want to go off track. It's got a little bit to play with.
I found myself in yesterday's race trying to create space for some people when I invalidated a lap and I drove over into the blue painted section, and my goodness, was that part of the track very slippery. So curious to see if anyone gets exposed to the blue or red painted sections on track and how they fare, because I knew I was struggling.
Yeah, not to mention how bumpy it is over there too. It's a part of the track that doesn't get maintenance. I pulled off to the side of it as well at one point, and my car was literally shaking. I almost lost I almost considered actually jumping back into the pits because I nearly collided with the wall. Had a good spin, but yeah, it's slippery, it's bumpy, it's not really a part of the track that you want to be, and that comes down to race during the race too. If you find yourself off track, sometimes it's pretty darn difficult to actually get back onto track.
That actually happened to me in the middle of the third sector. I dipped a tire on the blue paint for just a second on throttle in the back end, just whipped around. It's a really easy mistake to make, and there's not much you can do to recover. You just got to do your best to avoid it in the first place.
Shea goes for a little bit of a spin while finishing up his lap, unfortunately. Gonna find another driver on their lap. Kyle Turner coming across the line, jumps himself all the way up to P5, so that's actually a really good starting lap for Turner there. P5 doesn't have to worry about anybody else from the first group pushing him down, so Turner starting off strong. And Busick, someone that we kind of expected jumping up. Busick jumps up to P5 from the start, and Foguth also last week on the podium too. Foguth puts himself into P4.
I'm surprised to see a lot of McLaren finding success. In my experience, the McLaren is very skittish in the wet, so They have great high-speed cornering abilities, but not in the wet. So good for these drivers really being able to tame what would otherwise be a very sketchy driving experience.
Absolutely. Dahi crosses the line, jumps up to P8. Dahi set a 3-second slower time than Taflovich. Hopefully Dahi's able to just get into the rhythm, set a couple more laps before they have to jump back into the pits for race time. Gonna jump on board with Tony, who has kept this lap valid so far. He's in the final sector, sector 3.
Given the wet conditions, typically in dry conditions, we would have a variety of different strategies in terms of the pit window, coming in and swapping tires and getting a full load of fuel. But I can't imagine very many drivers are going to want to swap tires. They're going to want to keep temp in them. So I think that is going to reduce the variance of pit strategies where they just do the splash and dash. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Evan.
I was gonna say absolutely. I think the play here is start with as much fuel as you need for the whole race and just take that 1 liter in the mandatory pit stop window. Not really a reason to change tires, like you said. Temperatures are gonna be everything here. If you sacrifice a lap or two trying to get a second set back in the window, then you probably sacrifice too much time there compared to staying on the same set.
Yeah, I think even just starting with a bunch of fuel as well. Some cars you need even less than 90 in wet conditions, unless you're driving the Lexus, in which case you still guzzle fuel no matter what. But I think the extra fuel even just helps keep the car planted at the start. You can kind of get into a rhythm. I think it's kind of the ideal conditions to actually have a full tank of fuel. You know, a lot of dry conditions, you have to really think about whether or not it's worth having a half tank and then filling up. But I don't think my mind even takes a second thought about going into a race without the full tank when it comes to rain.
For sure.
That being said, it's looking like a lot of these drivers are improving on their lap times. That the track might be getting a little bit more grippy as the rain in the forecast is saying that it's decreasing. So could be an advantage for the people that were able to come in the second grouping here.
Yeah, I'm just on board with Tony, who's finishing up his lap here, and he's a whole 8/10 up. So, and as I say that, he loses 2/10 on the exit. 2/10 on the exit there, but still crosses the line about 4/10 up. Not enough to move him up position, but yeah, 4/10 in a single lap. It's good improvement. Turner behind him, who's in P6, is also finishing up their lap, and they're up on their time too.
Yeah, he could definitely feel confident knowing that there's time left in his lap. Where if you lose 4/10 in one corner, you can go and find that time up pretty quickly the following lap.
Turner comes across the line. He does improve, but not enough to catch Proenza there. Dahi's actually a whole second, about 1.3 seconds up there. So Dahi's on a stormer, has enough pace currently to jump him all the way up to P6. So that'll be good improvement from him if he's able to keep this clean and get across the line.
The cars that have PC2 really benefit in these wet conditions, having that ability to really dial that up and allow the car to rotate well with normal traction control, but
Absolutely.
put the power down quickly.
Yeah, and you could even see that just Dahi with such phenomenal rotation there, and ended up being able to get another extra 10th or 2 and jumps all the way up to P3, so that's a great lap from Dahi Yoon.
What an absolute surge, putting a statement down.
Absolutely. We have Varghese in the BMW. He's going to be one of the next drivers to cross the line with a valid lap. He's currently a second up on his time. He's 5.7 back, but finishing up a second will actually jump him up about 5 or 6 positions at this point. So that'll be enough to put him into a sub 20 position, which is always better than starting, 20 to 36 than such a large grid. And it's actually, he managed to gain another 0.3 into there, and he jumps all the way up to P20, so a good improvement to P20, not too bad. We'll see, he has enough time to do another lap or two, so we'll see if he can improve throughout the course of those 2 laps.
Now, real quick here, taking a look at our poll that we put out on our Sim Racing Alliance Discord as to who is going to put it on pole tonight. People say Bradley Busick, actually Dave Taflovich, our current pole sitter, is the people's choice. So it looks like they got a lot of confidence that Dave's gonna sit there on top through the second session here.
Yeah, I think Taflovich proved his pace to us last week. The penalty really was his undoing, but he has so much pace. He's a driver who has a lot of sim experience. He's newer to ACC, but he is a very quick driver and he's quick to learn. So definitely showing why the community has so much faith in him. Currently, he's a whole second and a half up from P2, which is held by Josh Damiani. Haven't really given him much of a shout out, but Damiani sitting in P2 at the moment, car 777. Arnold comes across the line, jumps himself up to P9, so that's a good lap from Arnold. Unfortunately, only 1 position gained though, and that's the thing when the field is, kind of as tight as it is. Sometimes it's harder to, sometimes a little bit hard to jump up as many positions when everyone else is also setting pretty much the exact same times as you.
Once again here, I think our top 10 is going to be really close with some good fighting, and then our mid pack as well is going to be just as bunched up, just a little bit behind here. Should be a great race.
We have Fogeth improving their time. They're about 6.5 tenths up right now, and they're sitting 1.6 seconds back. So this 6.5 tenths actually is enough to jump them into P2. So Fogeth going from a podium finish last week into a currently really strong qualifying performance. I'm curious to see if Busick has some more time in him. Busick, like I touched base on, was Taflovich's biggest challenger last week. He doesn't quite have the same pace this week. It might be the practice in the rain that's coming down to it. And Fogeth does cross the line, jumps all the way up to P2. So great lap from Fogeth, currently 1.1 seconds back from Taflovich.
That's got to be nerve-wracking, sitting in the pits watching these other drivers qualifying and trying to bide their time taking the pole away from you, man. It's got to be stressful.
Absolutely. I'm pretty glad that the Pro Division does not do that, because I would be a nervous wreck heading into the final couple minutes of qualifying.
You would demand being in the second grouping for that alone.
Absolutely.
Maybe there's some strategy in that. You wait to join the server so you get the second grouping, but who's to say that the weather doesn't get worse over the course of qualifying? So, complete toss-up.
Busick coming across the line jumps himself up to P3, so going from P8 to P3, he definitely needed that. Guzman comes across the line, jumps all the way up to P4, so that's Jose Guzman jumping up to P4. Brother Carlos Guzman sitting down in P11. Carlos is currently in the pit, so might not be improving their lap time. Dahi also coming across the final line, or across the final corner through the finish line, currently enough to jump up to P4. So Dahi with a great last ditch effort there, and actually crosses the line with 4 seconds left to go. So we'll be able to finish off one more lap there.
And he just found 4/10 in the first corner.
He sure did. Dropped a little bit of time. Actually, he's dropping that time quite rapidly. I don't know what happened. He might have had a little bit of a squirrel moment, but we'll tune in with him later on in the lap, see where he comes out. Turner currently 7/10 up, so that's a big jump if Turner's able to hook this one up and bring it home.
Wonder Bread cars looking quick this week.
Gigabikes Racing says, let's give it up to the fans in the stands who are standing there waving their flags in this pouring rain. Absolutely. ACC fans are the best fans. They're out here no matter what.
They get their money's worth.
Absolutely. Turner crosses the line, jumps up to P4. That's a great finishing lap from Turner. Definitely puts him into contention for the podium for the weekend. Someone that I haven't actually tuned into quite yet, but Hisham Rimsk, currently up on their time. Might not be enough to jump up too many positions, only to P14, but it's a good showing, especially in the McLaren around in these conditions. Colin Shea actually almost a second up on their time, just finishing up their lap in P16. And they are about 3.4 back, but with this lap time they'll probably jump about 6 or 7 positions, so could be a great little finishing stint for Colin Shea. And Colin Shea is actually the last driver that we have on the field here, so Colin's time is going to be the final time. Colin coming across the line and jumps himself up to P11, so pretty good last effort there from Colin. Your pole sitter, as everyone predicted. Oh, and that moved on real quick, but you have Taflovich followed by Fogeth and Busick, Turner and Yun Dehiyun, sorry, in P5.
So some pretty common names that we have at the front here. But there are some newcomers here that should definitely mix up the front of the grid. And like we were talking about earlier, the BMW is super stable, but much to our surprise, the McLaren's able to muster in the rain.
Absolutely. Fogeth and Turner, who I believe are teammates, yes they are. You can see them in their Wonder Bread cars there. But yeah, they showed that the McLaren has pace around here, and that's a pretty great effort by them.
Would you say the rest of the field is toast compared to them?
And that's why we brought Doug Mitchell into the booth tonight, folks. Because Evan and I are the most dry human beings alive.
Glad to be involved, boys.
Oh boy. So for those that don't know and who are new to Sim Racing Alliance, one, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe. We do this every single week, and we're hoping to bring our pro division into the live streaming on YouTube as well. But for those that don't know, these are hour-long races. We have a mandatory stop in between. And that mandatory stop, you only need to fill up 1 liter. It's not mandatory to do anything else, completely optional, and that'll be at the 10-minute at the halfway mark. It's a 10-minute window. You'll see the drivers jump in. You'll see overcutting, undercutting, all kinds of attempts to make the best out of a situation. We're going to start things off with a formation lap. We'll probably have Taflovich get us underway in a second here, and there he goes, kicks things off.
To your point, that pit window opens at the 35-minute mark, closes at the 25-minute mark. So in last night's race, I was one of the first people to get into the pits, and it benefited me quite a bit doing the undercut. We'll see how that other drivers in this race perceive their pit stop strategies.
Just going to show the standings really quickly while we're watching the drivers go through the formation lap. Here they are. Round 1 of 8 is covered. That was last week. Bradley Busick on top with 110 points, followed by Jess Osborne with 100. John Fogeth rounded out the podium last week with 92. Josh Damiani picking up a strong 4th place with 85 points. Smooth Toad, who we saw out here today, with 80. Joshua Arnold with 76. Daehee Young with 72. Jose Guzman with 68, Dave Taflovich 66, and Kyle Turner rounding out your top 10 currently with 60 points. thank you to Chris Stefiak for supplying that standings graphic. Always helps to have a artist within the organization.
There is not enough credit to a graphic designing team for a league. Not enough. It's a thankless job, is what I'm trying to say here. And at the end of the day, I'm sure they are tired of all the edits that I request, but we love them dearly.
It pleases me to no end to hear that live on TV. I'll play back that one tonight.
You can snip that one for later, buddy. Evan, what are your thoughts on the preferred driving line into turn 1 here?
You got to play it real safe here. The spray is going to be intense coming down that first straight. Got to keep your eyes on the car ahead and hope the car behind doesn't hit you. You got to play it a little slow, maybe give it a little coast coming into the braking zone for turn 1 and make sure you're not going to bump the guy in front and cause a massive incident. So I think keep her nice and straight and play it safe here.
I think there's going to be a good mix of people that are wanting to be extremely careful, and then there's going to be a mix of people that want to be hyper aggressive to take advantage of those trying to give that extra space, and could lead to some pretty intense moments. I'm seeing actually a couple people starting from the pits. It looks like one was a late joiner, so wasn't able to qualify, but Rimzik actually qualified P15, stuck in the pits, wasn't able to get on the grid in time before the drive-off started.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate to see, especially since they were able to climb a couple of positions on their last lap. So, you know, might have taken that 2-minute timeout to go use the restroom, something like that. Sometimes I go grab a snack, just make it back in time to hit drive. He might have not made it back in time.
Happens to the best of us.
It truly does. Sometimes things take longer than you expect.
You know, I'm sure he's just screaming at the top of his lungs right now, "Yo, can I get a restart?"
Beautiful. Taflovich coming through. We're about to get underway. I'm going to head it to Helicam view. They are on the front straight here. All the cars coming around the final corner. Good thing ghosting is on because there would be absolute carnage back there. Ghosting only up until they cross the green light here, and we're green, green, green. Taflovich leads the way. Great jump start. Turner was actually a little bit further back than he probably would have wanted, so Busick able to jump Turner right from the get-go, going into T1. So far, so good. We have a car trying to squeeze him wide. We'll jump a bit back there. So far, so good.
Daehee?
Oh, it looks like we have a Daehee Yoon. Unfortunately, looks like he might have taken a bit of a spin. We have Foster out of the pits and Rimsk also out of the pits, struggling to get to the start there. Jumping back on board with action. We have action everywhere, as we always do on the front lap. Front lap. Same thing.
The first of many.
No big movers within the top 10. They're all kind of, they've sorted themselves out, but we have changes left, right, and center here in the middle of the pack.
Now we're going to really see who took the risk on the faster speed on the straights, and we can already see some people jostling for position.
Yeah, we have Hoskin and Daniel side by side, and Hoskin looks to have actually had the faster setup. Daniel is dropping positions at the moment, so no slipstreams involved there. They were three wide, and Daniel unfortunately losing out on the straight line speed here. Oh, and unfortunately Alex collides with Hoskin there, so Daniel just got absolutely demolished. That is unfortunate. That's probably going to be suspension damage. It's probably the worst place you could possibly... Oh, man. From bad to worse, just keeps getting tagged. I am so sorry, Alex, that I caught that on camera.
Looks like a little further up, we have quite a few cars off track. Hoskin went off, and then another Bentley went off as well.
Yeah, there was drivers, unfortunately, it was a bit of an accordion effect. They might have been trying to catch themselves while heading in there. They saw Alex turned around at the apex of the corner, and that'll get you. It kind of makes you a bit scared. You might tap on the brakes, all of a sudden your steering locks up, and you just kind of go for a slide. You have Damiani and Guzman fighting side by side. They're just slamming into each other. Guzman takes the spot. Job well done there by Guzman. So actually, wait, that was Damiani on Guzman. My mistake. So Damiani overtook Guzman there. Really, really nice effort there. Stuck his nose in and stuck with the move.
Yeah, a little rubbing his racing there, and it worked out for him.
Got the elbows out, but it was a clean move at the apex.
Yeah, absolutely. GT3 cars, they're pretty used to bumping around. They do it live in the. I want to say real sport. Sometimes esports feels pretty real too, but they do it when they're racing each other in real life, and we do it here sometimes in esports too. Tony Parenzo was trying to track down Toad in front of him. Unfortunately, didn't have the best exit onto the straight and fell a little bit out of the slipstream there. Right now, Toad able to hold on to that spot. We have Rowley, who's blasting his way by one of the Guzman brothers. Rowley looks to have had to back out of that a little bit. Guzman sticking around the outside, and he's now getting overtaken by still holding on to the position, but Osborne definitely trying to stick his nose in there, make sure that his presence is well known. Jumping quickly ahead, Taflovich leading the way has pulled a 1.5 second gap over Fogeth, so that's something that we sort of expected, Taflovich being as solid and consistent of a driver, but Fogeth, showing why he was on the podium last week, maintains a pretty good gap to Busick behind. So Busick, who is Taflovich's main contender last week, is struggling to keep up with Fogeth this week.
You can definitely see some of the drivers that are much more comfortable in these conditions, and there's definitely some timid driving going on. I think that's leading to a lot of the sliding because the car needs speed to carry that extra downforce, and a lot of the drivers forfeit that speed for safety, and the car just doesn't have any traction.
Yeah, just kind of cycling through the drivers right here. There's a lot of super close deltas. We have Schaefer on Hartman, who's and meanwhile Kayat going for a little bit of a dive. Aggressive, but makes the job stick, and even trying to make a move on Hartman now. Might actually get one of the better exits here too. So if he lines this up well, he could actually end up taking two drivers. And look at Schaefer, absolute rocket ship coming back on the straight. So Schaefer taking the advantage, jumping around them both, and unfortunately Kayat's right back to where he started, back behind the both of them. So great plan by Schaefer, overtaking two, and Kayat says not done yet. He's going to try and go up the inside here.
Great side-by-side racing through the high-speed turn there. Again, the stability of these cars that choose extra downforce really pays dividends in this section of the track. But as you saw, some of the cars really take off on the straight, especially when they get a better exit of that first corner onto the straight. So it really builds up a huge gap. But the battle's ensuing in this midfield battle here.
And it looks like Carlos Guzman had some struggles there, so Carlos Guzman now drop back a couple of positions, rejoins in between Kayat and Hartman. Hartman was probably going to try and actually pull a little bit of a switch back there on Kayat, so good thing for Kayat for Guzman getting in between the two of them.
Already seeing some penalties being dished out by the ruthless in-game stewards, but I think it's going to be the first of many, unfortunately.
To note, Hisham Rimsk has managed to jump up a couple of positions after starting in the pits. So Hisham now sitting in P29, and you know, sometimes starting in the pits is a good thing, especially when there's a bunch of carnage at lap 1. He probably was able to stay out of that unfortunate incident between a handful of the drivers, and now he's going to start making his charge back up the field there. Toledo and Arnold side by side down the straight. Briefly, Arnold trying to duck, or sorry, that's Toledo trying to duck into the slip, and now taking the inside line around Arnold. And at the moment has the position. Look at that thing go. Still maintains the speed going into the corner. So no real fight there. Takes the position and carries on his way.
Braving the spray.
Yeah, you know, spray is a dangerous one. Look at this. We got Foster, Hartman, and ooh, someone's gone wide. I think that was Hartman, and oh, Hartman actually goes for a spin. Ends up going for a little bit of a spin there. Dehi trying to make up ground, currently sitting in P22, chasing down Foster and Rodriguez. Sorry.
All things considered, the grid is super tight-knit. You don't have anyone really blasting off. You do have a couple unfortunate incidents that caused a few strugglers at the back there, but if you look at the track, it is insane just how many drivers are closely knit.
Absolutely. We have Osborne trying to make a move on Rally. Goes for a little bit of a switchback, and wow, that was really pretty great for Osborne. Rally unfortunately got onto a sketchy part of the curb, probably had to back out of the power quite a bit, but really nice switchback from Osborne there. Just caught it on camera. Well, when it looks like a couple of drivers have gone for a spin, that's Tyrell Foster down in the Porsche, unfortunately has gone for a spin and does the right thing, waits for a couple of cars to pass him. So unfortunate spot to spin out. There is a lot of cars. You might want to just reverse. There he goes. It's like I read his mind and is able to rejoin back behind Will Forsling, and I think that's Will and teammate Alex Daniel. Jay Rally going deep and gets overtaken by both Osborne and Martin there, so you know, probably got onto a very slippy part of the track, just completely missed their braking point, and just like that, 2 positions lost. Jumping up the grid for P4 and P3, we have Guzman trying to chase down Busick. So Guzman just 0.3 back at the moment and heading into the final corner, trying to set up a switchback here. Gonna jump into the slipstream of Busick.
I found myself switching from engine map 2 for stability to engine map 1. I don't know if it was just a placebo on the straights to make me feel like I was going faster, but made me feel warm and fuzzy while doing it. So definitely some tips and tricks for you guys out there.
Hey, whatever makes you feel warm and fuzzy. Sometimes the placebo effect is the best effect. We might see, I'm going to stay on board with Guzman here, as we might see a slipstream in full effect, as he's just been all over the back of Busick throughout Sector 1. Look at the spray that's coming up. It is, and if you're in cockpit view, it is very difficult to see around that.
But you're seeing the absolute weakness of the BMW. The top speed is about 10 kph slower. It is horrendous.
Yeah, tell that to my
But
Ferrari last night.
yeah, but you're going to see Houston can hold so much more speed through this high speed section here, and especially these two reducing radius turns here, and he's going to be able to really close this gap.
Yeah, that's the one thing is, you know, you might get around a person on that front straight, but they're going to be right on your bumper throughout the, excuse me, not the front straight, but the back straight, and they're going to be right up on your bumper throughout the entire sector 3. So it comes down to composure. Make sure you cover your lines, make sure you don't let them stick their nose in, and if you can get yourself to the final corner, you should be able to hold position, but it can be difficult at times, especially when it comes to pressure.
Definitely a risk versus reward scenario where you're going to have to want to risk putting the pressure on to hopefully make the driver in front of you make a mistake so you can get by him. But that's the reward. But the risk is that you can't see your braking mark because of the spray, or you have bad aero because of the dirty air. So definitely something you need to weigh while in the driving seat.
We have Toad applying a lot of pressure to Turner right now, so this is another McLaren BMW battle. I feel like we have McLaren BMW battles all throughout the track. They seem to be, they're you know, pros and cons seem to be outweighing each other, and they're coming out pretty equal-handed in this amateur race tonight.
You know, Paul Ricard gets a lot of hate as being not fun to drive and flat, but at the end of the day, it is quite a balanced track with the emphasis on high speed, but also your cornering ability in Sector 3. It's actually quite balanced.
Absolutely. Goes back to what Doug said of, do you want to choose a high downforce setup or straight line setup? Compromise your sectors 1 and 2. It's, yeah, it gets a lot of hate. It's not the most organized track. It gets confusing at times, but when you put in the practice, it's a pretty fun track to race. That's for sure.
As you finish that up, the first victim to drive-through penalty for track limits is Schaefer, our 453.
Absolutely.
It's an absolute dagger right before about 10 minutes before your pit window. So
And
just got to put your head down and try and recover as best you can.
injury to insult too, ends up getting passed by Daihy on the straight and gets overtaken by Rodriguez there too. So in the span of just a single corner and a single straight, Rodriguez unfortunately goes around, manages to catch it. It's the catching that's important, but kind of injury to insult for Schaefer there. Picks up a drive-through, gets overtaken by 2 cars. We'll see how Schaefer manages to recover over the course of the track there. We have a Jones who jumps into the pits. I'm not too sure why Jones has jumped into the pits. Might have picked up some damage. But Jones currently jumped into the pits.
There may be some confusion as to pit stop regulations. We do have quite a few new drivers to the AM division. That being said, it was in the driver's briefing about your pit stops, so maybe just a miscue, or like you mentioned, maybe some damage that we're off camera.
Yeah, it's super difficult to get through a lap or several laps with suspension damage, and I can't imagine it's any easier when it's as wet as it is out there. So if he had suspension damage, probably had to come in.
That being said, there's only been a few large incidents where this really treacherous weather has caused a multi-car incident. The driver is really managing the spray and the wet conditions quite well, all things considered. Driving quite closely too, so the driving proficiency has been really impressive.
We had Varghese overtake Hisham in the Sector 1, and then Hisham, sorry, I keep saying Hisham, but it's Rimsk, and he ended up setting up. Oh, wow, lost so much speed down the straight compared to Varghese. Holy cow. wonder what happened there. But ended up setting up for a really, really nice lineup to go down the straight. Lost a lot of speed though. That was a bit confusing. Hisham looking to go for the dive. What was that? Sorry, Doug.
I was going to say, it looks like he's about to send up the inside, but rightfully backs out. Very close racing. But this is, again, where you see the BMW's prowess in these high-speed corners with that extra downforce. The McLaren really struggling to put that traction down as the BMW just kind of glides through.
Gonna quickly jump on board with Josh Damiani, who's now in the back of Busick. So Busick's losing a couple of positions here, doesn't quite have the race pace that we saw last week. He's already lost position to Guzman, fallen 2.3 back, and Damiani in the slipstream on the straight, just 0.1 back now, probably gonna pull off. Oh, goes for the outside onto a very bumpy part of the track. Luckily is in the Aston Martin. That thing can handle a few bumps.
And a lot of extra speed on the straight than the BMW, so he's able to get the move done on the less preferred line through that corner.
That's a big move for Damiani there. His experience coming into play. Busick on a bit of the back foot right now. He's going to want to get into a rhythm, probably get into the pits in the next 6 minutes and reset himself.
As you say that, I saw another drive-through penalty for a separate driver. They're starting to trickle in now. The stewards are fierce.
The in-game stewards are absolutely fierce.
Savages. Oh no, it's Jacob Wolfman, part of the Bentley Boys Club. You hate to see it.
That's sad to see. I was teammates with Jacob Wolfman last season, and he's in the AM series, and I'm in the pro for season 2, but still got to root for the guy. That's sad to see.
Bentley drivers have to stick together.
There's not many of us, so we gotta do the best we can for each other.
You gotta pull your money together to pay for the maintenance on that thing.
Yeah, the luxury is. It's nice on the straights. You got the nice cockpit, leather seats. Man, those repair bills are crazy.
Yeah, you have to have a specialist mechanic look at that bad boy, but man, it's a nice piece of engineering.
I found the Bentley actually quite unwieldy here at this track with that longer wheelbase. The hairpins, those tight radius corners, it really doesn't want to turn in that well. It is very stable in the high speed sections, but once you get down to that low speed, it feels like the car just never quite gets turning. I had quite the struggle in the pro race in those low speed sections.
In contrast to your large Bentley, this tiny Porsche of Tyrell Foster started in the pits and is up to P23 already, surging through the field through the first half of the race.
Yeah, I don't think Tyrell Foster, I don't think he was in our race last week, wasn't able to make the AM race, but he was a driver in our season last year who, there was brief moments he wasn't able to attend every race, but there are moments where he showed that he was a really, really consistent driver, didn't make too many mistakes, didn't have quite that pro pace to get himself into the pro division this season, but he so long as he keeps a clean drive, he can drive that car pretty darn well, and the Porsche is a very difficult car to drive in this game.
And as we were talking about, my ex-teammate there, Jacob Wolfman, looks like he just got disqualified for speeding in the pit lane.
Coming in way too hot.
You hate to see it. That is not big for the program.
Sniper
he
Nova
will not be driving, vibing, and thriving tonight.
He'll get the towel and dry off and hope to do better next week.
Sniper Nova had a moment, went off track in the Audi and ended up getting overtaken there by Foster. So Nova drops a couple positions behind Allen and Foster. Sniper Nova. What a name. We have Gavin Thomas and the other Bentley being chased down by Will Forsling at the moment. So Will, unfortunately, has dropped a few positions, but looks to make those up. His teammate is probably a bit out of the race at the moment. He had to jump into the pits earlier on due to all the suspension damage that he sustained in the incident on lap 1. So Will's fighting for the, I believe it's the, what's that team's name? Sith Alliance? Racing Alliance?
Sith Racing Apprentices.
There we go.
The sister junior team to the Sith Racing Alliance of the Pro Division. Very good looking liveries, if I do say so myself. Shorty with the plug. Important to note that in just over a couple minutes here, we have the pit window opening. So interested to see who's going to drive in early and sacrifice a little bit of tire temp to maybe break up some of the driving positions out on track. Maybe they're losing some time stuck behind somebody, or they're just kind of out of the rhythm, maybe need a reset, or someone who wants to stretch it really long by contrast. So we'll see what the pit strategies look like here shortly.
We have Martin on the back of Osborne, so 1 minute to go until pit window opens up, sorry. Looks like Martin in the Mercedes is able to actually pull away from Osborne in the BMW behind.
Looks like we have a big incident in Sector 3. A couple yellow flags being waved around.
Yeah, looks like it was Hartman again, so Hartman dropping back a few positions, and it looks like Allen dropped back a few too, so not where they want to be. Hartman's had a couple of those instances so far today, so struggling on the wets, but once again, reset yourself. The pit window opens up soon. Try and gain composure. You got about 20 seconds to drive through the pits to reset and get back into the swing of things.
Looking at our SRA poll here, we had other people asking who was going to take the dub tonight, and the league said that it was going to be, they're split between whether it's going to be Dave or someone else. So not a lot of confidence for anyone other than Dave. So I'm interested to see if he's able to keep his position from pole and ride off into the sunset, or if he's going to have a fall from grace.
Yeah, Dave, currently 8.5 up on P2. Oh, and we got Proenza trying to send it up on Turner. Gives him a little bit of a slapstick there. Takes the position, drives off. On stream it looks like sometimes the contact's pretty aggressive, but I assure you, when you're in the car and you slap into someone, sometimes it's barely even a brush and you hardly notice. Speaking of pit stop and pit window is open. We have Dave jumping in. Remember, Dave unfortunately had that pit lane incident last week. Let's hope he doesn't come out of the pits with another penalty this week. Following
is that the fall from grace that we might be expecting? Who's calling it?
Moments away from finding out. So the suspense is real, and we actually have, interesting enough, we have a Damiani really close behind too. So not even that far back from Taflovich, and it looks like Taflovich kept it clean. No apparent penalty at the moment. Damiani.
It looks like he took the safe route to avoid a penalty, but lost probably 5 seconds.
It does.
Being extra careful.
Damiani out of the pits is now only 4.5 seconds back from Taflovich ahead. So Taflovich, not the best pit stop, lost about 4 seconds to Damiani in P2 there.
Now we have Damiani behind it. Daehe, are there going to be some team orders in place?
Yeah, hopefully Daehe's able to give him a little bit of a slip, get Damiani back into the action there. He's going to be wanting to see if he can try and track down Taflovich, capitalize on a strong outlap. Might be a bit too far back for that slip, but we'll see what happens.
Plus, Daehe is in a flip of Guzman, so maybe not smart to sacrifice the extra pace there.
Very true. And actually, Daehe right on the back of Carlos Guzman. Looks like he might be going for a send.
Backs out at the last second.
Guzman shows him the door. We have Foguth coming through along with Jose Guzman. Looks like Foguth is jumping into the pits. Guzman stays out. So Guzman, your current leader of the race, still needs to jump into the pits.
Do you guys like going long and pitting towards the end of the window, or getting your pit stop out of the way early?
I'm, I always put in the extra fuel. If I'm planning on doing a fuel where I'm taking half a tank, I always put in about 60-40. And I'll try and go long. For races where I know that I'm only putting in the 1 liter, it really depends on how close I am to the next person. If I'm a second behind and they stay out when the pit lane first opens, I'm jumping straight in. Always try to take advantage of either an undercut or an overcut. So really, heat of the battle comes down to my proximity to the car behind or the car in front. Sometimes it warrants me jumping in right away, sometimes not.
I'm in the same school of thought. I'm in constantly calculating who I'm around, and if I feel like I'm losing behind the driver in front of me, I'm trying to get out of there as soon as possible. If they dive into the pits, stay out. If I can find some clear air, that just allows me to really maximize my pace in any given scenario. If someone's really riding me and I'm kind of just being stressed out or maybe a little exhausted from constantly having to overanalyze my driving, maybe I dive in to give myself that reset like we talked about earlier, or I stay out if they dive in to kind of give myself a breather between the battling on track. So definitely it's all about maximizing your time, in my opinion. It's not about tires or anything like that. For me, it's how can I maximize my time on track.
Crucially for drivers behind Taflovich right now, Taflovich had a very long battle with Toledo here. Finally gets Toledo on the inside, so Toledo could have been a big play in the likes of Damiani and Foguth catching up. And I actually missed it, but Foguth came out of the pits ahead of Damiani. So Foguth ahead of Damiani, Damiani just 0.5 back, and both have completed their pit stops. Race leaders currently in the pits. Guzman in the pits, followed by Toad, Busick, and Turner.
Oh, it looks like Damiani just connected with Foguth and they both spun.
Foguth with a little oversteer and Damiani driving into his rear quarter. They both end up losing it for a second there.
They both recover nicely, but Damiani definitely is the one that's losing on that transaction. Lost probably 2 or 3 seconds to the driver in front.
Crucially, comes down the straight ahead of Toledo and Busick. So still manages to come out ahead of 2 drivers who were in play for being able to overtake him. And Doug, if you would check the chat on the YouTube live chat, Justin Burridge has left you a lovely message.
Oh goodness, I can't wait. I'm flattered, Justin. Thank you for that. Glad to be here and see the great commitment and engagement from the community. That's a very PG way of saying I'm flattered. So. Much love for my fellow commentators in the booth. They are running the show. I'm just here to have fun.
Yeah, we tried to tell him that we didn't need him today, but lo and behold, here he is. So.
Yeah, the madman came in and insisted on participating. really putting the pressure on him. But at the end of the day, I'm having an absolute blast. So
Couple
I
of
appreciate you guys having me.
absolutely, Doug. We love having you here. Just to note, a couple of drive-through penalties just popped up. We have Allen and Toledo. Toledo in P13 picks up a drive-through, so that's going to be a big hit to his position there. And down the straight, oh my goodness! I literally just caught such a gnarly incident between Toad and Proenza. So Toad was trying to go up the inside, ended up collecting Proenza, and I think Proenza must have damage, must have steering damage. We're gonna.
His hood is messed up, so I can't imagine that his car's feeling anything but.
Yeah, he has a cracked windshield and all, so that's probably, unfortunately, a race over for Proenza. That's really too bad because he was fighting for a top 10 position there. I'm not too sure who is at fault. It kind of looked like both of them were fighting for position, refusing to give up, so hopefully he's
that
able
one
to
to our
jump in.
beloved Stewart team.
Yep. That's their job, not mine. I'm just here to commentate.
Amen. It looks like Proenza's trying to salvage his race by limping back to the pits and getting some much-needed repairs done, but it will be an absolutely devastating hit. I know that with that much damage, you can have a lot of downtime, close to 3 to 4 minutes sometimes.
Toledo into the pits to serve their drive-through, and with all this action, Daehee Yun managing to jump his way up to P12. I know it says P14 on the timing boards on the stream right now, but Daehee overtaking in the pits as well, P12. So that's a big climb from the earlier incident, which dropped him back to about P23, P24, thereabouts.
I'm also checking back, I'm looking through the list. Foster's in P12? Is that right?
He unfortunately just lost a few positions coming out of the pit, so Tyrell Foster sitting in P15 at the moment, with Martin right on his tail, 0.6 back.
That's still incredible for starting in P34.
Sure is. That's a big climb, and it goes to show you, so long as you maintain a nice, clean race, you're going to climb on up the leaderboards.
I'm sure Kyle Martin is salivating down the straight, hoping he can just stay in the tow to get a good shot at him.
We got a shout out in the chat asking for someone to put Rimsk on the stream, so we'll give Rimsk a little bit of stream action. Car 808 sitting in P18, and you just touched base on Tyrell Foster jumping up from last position, but Rimsk is another one. He started in the pits and has managed to climb his way up to P18. So really strong race from him, and it's too bad that we saw him unfortunately start in the pits and not able to show us what his pace would have actually been.
Yeah,
it really
he
is
should have been in
incredible.
P15.
Yep, exactly.
But to Evan's point, I mean, he is fighting back through the crowd just as much as Foster is, showing great consistency.
And not only do you lose out when the green flag is dropped by being the last one out, but you're also starting on ice cold tires by missing out on the formation lap. So those first couple laps, you're worse off than anybody else, on top of being the last one out. It's really crazy that he got to go on that fast and has climbed that far.
While we're speaking there, Jose Guzman coming out of the pits just gets overtaken by Turner. Turner, Toad, and I believe there's almost 4 drivers down the straight that actually ended up overtaking him. So not the best pit for Guzman. Lost a couple of positions and now is trying to battle his way back behind Arnold. And we have Shea on the straights actually overtaking Toad. So Shea in the McLaren overtaking Toad in the BMW. Toad tries to cut back, jump into their slipstream and turn. And that is a long straight.
What a battle. It takes a lot of courage to be that close with the spray and the lack of air.
And Guzman, just shortly behind them, manages to overtake Arnold into the final corner there too. So a couple of positions gained along the straights by Guzman and Colin Shea. Up ahead, it's a pretty spread out field. Taflovich has maintained his, or regained his 8-second to 9-second gap, followed by Fogeth. So Fogeth, having overtaken Damiani in the pits, now has a 3-second lead over top of Damiani. Busick behind, 7 seconds back, followed by Kyle Turner, who is about 15 seconds back from him. So pretty gapped out field up at the top 5. But things are a lot closer, and it looks like Kyle Martin has unfortunately gone around, slams the wall for extra effect, but Kyle Martin around, dropping back a few positions, falls to P17.
Yeah, it's with having such a good race. I feel like Kyle has so much pace, but just can't put a full race together for whatever reason. So kudos to him continuing to grind and get back, because he's very new to the game. But yeah, just another incident that's compromised his ability to be competitive.
And while you're talking there, Doug, unfortunately Smooth Toad in car number 250 has picked up a drive-through penalty, sitting in P7. So P7 would have been a really strong finish for them. Now has a drive-through penalty, with 3 drivers breathing down their neck.
You hate to see it. With that being said, are you able to look at who else has a number of warnings on their car?
I unfortunately don't have visibility on that. That would have been a fantastic addition. Let me see if I can fish
Evan,
something else.
Do you have that software pulled up?
Let's see here. So I don't believe we're able to see warnings, only once the penalties have been issued for their 4th cut.
Gotcha. Well, then that's going to keep us in suspense. The chat also mentioning driver of the day options. 1 vote for Foster already. So definitely keep that in the back of your mind, gentlemen, as to who you feel deserves driver of the day. And another request to see the bottom of the grid to see how their battles are unfolding.
Yeah, I'll tune into the bottom of the grid in just a moment here. You know, we've been giving a lot of shout-outs to Tyrell Foster for making his way up, as well as Hisham Rimsk. A driver who completely fell off of our radar, but has had an absolutely storm up the field too, is Kayat in car number 555 for the BMW, currently up 18 positions. So
wow, sleeper.
Absolute sleeper, currently sitting in P13. Fantastic drive from them so far. I am sorry that I haven't caught more screen time for you, but fantastic race so far from Kayat.
While we were mentioning Kayat, Alex Daniel had a killer move up the inside to gain position too. So good moves from him after a good recovery. And as I say that, the commentators curse. He absolutely punched somebody off the track. Oh no!
I might have just caught that on stream, so not a great day for me to be tuning into Alex Daniel. I sincerely apologize, my friend.
He's given the position back though because he's an absolute gentleman.
Sure is. And that's the way we like to do it here at SRA. If you feel that you're at fault, let the person take the position back. Hopefully we're able to avoid any penalties from there.
Any other juicy battles at the back there?
Yeah, I'm just on board with Sniper Nova, who's in P24 trying to chase down Gavin Thomas, who's in the other Bentley Boys Club. So he's about 0.5 back coming into turn 1. Sniper Nova, car 420 in the Audi. For those that don't know, Audi's a definitely more popular car this season. I think we had all of 2 of them last season across both the Pro and AM division. So a more popular car. It had a bit of a BOP update to it. Made it a little bit more easier to drive, a little bit more stable, and yeah, it shows. There's a lot of people using it and a lot of people showing why it's a car that they want to be using this season.
Evo 2.0 seeing its absolute fierce straight line speed on the back straight here.
Oh no, Toad in P11 has just picked up a drive-through penalty, so they're jumping into the pit. Actually, you know what? That might have been the drive-through from earlier. So Toad jumping into the pits now with their drive-through, and Sniper Nova overtakes Gavin Thomas for P23.
What a move. Gavin is usually a driver that hangs out in the midfield, but he's putting a really consistent drive together. Really haven't seen too many incidents where he tends to sometimes spin off quite a few times. So again, a good performance from him, keeping it clean in very tough driving conditions.
Absolutely. Jumping up the field to Jose Guzman, 0.5 back, fighting for P6 with Colin Shea. And then behind them we have another fight for top 10 position is Osborne and Arnold. So 4 cars involved with 4 position battles in the top 10 right now. And it looks like Guzman's actually going to go around. Guzman overtakes Colin Shea going into the fast right-hander after the long straight.
Colin Shea is a very, very quick hot lap driver. He struggles with consistency across the course of a full hour, but again, the consistency is improving as he gets more practice in, so good to see him holding his own at the top of the grid.
Looks like Osborne's trying to go up this inside of Arnold. Arnold just has the edge ahead of him coming into the final 2 turns here, but Osborne sending it. See if Arnold's able to fight back with a little bit of a switchback going into the final corner. Gets a wider line for that switchback, and he's going to tuck into the slipstream here.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just witnessed the brake magic of the BMW.
Sure did.
Osborne being very respectful though of the side-by-side racing, super clean, lots of extra space, made the move the respectful way.
There's a lot of pressure from Arnold from behind, so he's kind of forcing Osborne into some mistakes. But so long as Osborne, particularly through Sector 1, puts his car in a good position, should be able to hold until the long straight here. We might see round 2 down this 1,000,000-kilometer long straight.
You see Foster dipping into the pits. I don't know why. No penalty. I don't see any relative damage. Didn't see any incidents. Is he retiring the car?
Yeah, looks like he came in. He's heading back out and dropping down, unfortunately, all the way to P22 at the moment. So Tyrell Foster dropping down to P22 after taking an unscheduled pit stop.
Almost wondering if that's down to fuel calculations. He might have underfueled the car and figured this was a good time to take the rest.
Wow, sorry, just jumping on board up at the top 3, we have Damiani and Foguth going at it. So Damiani was 3-point-something seconds back, last I checked, and all of a sudden he's right there and he's sending it.
Wow.
Up the inside.
Wow.
Oh my.
They don't make them like they used to.
Woohoo! Damiani with
absolutely stunned.
Wow, ballsy overtake, and got to give Foguth credit too for allowing that overtake to happen, but Damiani with just balls to the walls sent it.
Oh, but Damiani goes extra deep, gives him the inside, and now you're going to see a terrible run onto the first straight here.
Just checking in, it sounds like Justin Burge is confirming that Foster had to get fuel.
That is tragic, but speaking of tragedy, Damiani picks up a drive-through on this battle.
No.
As he's nudging Foguth on the straight. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. That was something to see.
What happened there?
I think a little bit of extra aggression for the two drivers, not wanting to concede the extra inside line, and just came together. And Foguth he's just parked the car.
Yeah, what is going on with Foguth here?
Probably absolutely fuming after the incident, felt like he was entitled to the line and was just basically pit maneuvered.
Yeah, I don't really know what happened. It looks like he might have actually stalled out the car. I saw his pedal press down briefly, but Foguth is dropping like a rock, unfortunately.
Yeah, a lot of drivers, if they have these big shunts, he's in 6th gear, it looks like. He's trying to get the car going. Maybe he just doesn't know he's in a bad gear, but sometimes these big shunts cause hardware problems where the wheel disconnects or something like that from the rig, so could be having some technical difficulty issues.
Absolutely. I've definitely had a situation too where I've had a bit of a mistake and I go to grab my steering wheel again and I just completely shut my car off just from grabbing my steering wheel and hitting the wrong button. So that it happens. Damiani is into the pits to serve their drive-through. So Damiani serving the drive-through, and it is a, excuse me, long, boring, and really disappointing time driving down the pit straight, waiting for you to engage that pit limiter release and start taking off again. Damiani's dropping positions. He's now down to P7, P8, P9. So Damiani comes out of the pits at P9.
It did offer him some time to self-reflect on what the hell happened on that straight, though.
Yeah, once again, I'm not too sure who was at fault there. Gonna leave that one to the stewards. Looks like they were just both battling super hard down the straight, and you don't really want to go and touch into contact when you're going 260 plus kilometers an hour.
Looking at our timetables here, it looks like Foguth is actually disconnected from the server. So I'm wondering if he disconnected down the straight and there wasn't anything really there, but the ghost of his car driving at a little bit of an angle.
That, or the incident happened and just pure rage quit the server. But don't want to form any conspiracy theories here. We'll definitely have to talk to them after the race and see what happened.
For sure.
Back down the grid in P24, we have Hartman all over the back of Varghese, 0.6 seconds back, and it looks like, oh wow, there is a lot of cars in action right now. 3 wide between Will Forsling, Rodriguez, and Hoskin, and Will trying a little bit of a switchback, unfortunately gets cut off by another driver there, so that's, I can't even tell who's all fighting each other. It's moving around a little bit too much, but we have Hoskin, Rodriguez, and Will all battling it out over the course of 3 or 4 corners there.
Will loves the switchback. Anytime he can whip that thing out, happy to. Luckily for Will, it looks like Proenza behind him is struggling for traction, so doesn't have the disadvantage of the Merc's better top speed coming at him, but it might be close enough at the end of the straight here. He rightfully backs out because he's a lap down. That's respectful, despite having a little bit more pace potentially.
Absolutely.
Oh no. Car 528. Caught the car. Definitely parked on the side of the track. Again, just another bad incident where it looks like the car's retired. It's off.
Another retiree Katav car. Yellow flagged. Foguth in the pits, unfortunately. Looks like Foguth disconnected. And there goes Katav car. So Katav car has disconnected as well.
You hate to see it. We have Russell Allen in the chat saying that John's pretty level-headed, so doesn't think that he would have quit out of a spite. So probably some technical difficulties trying to get his car back.
Jumping on board with the podium drivers at the moment in P1, Taflovich, pretty lonesome race, now currently 22 seconds up the road from Busick, but Busick with a recovery drive was dropping positions early on, has really taken advantage of a couple drivers ahead and their mistakes. So Busick now in P2, probably where a lot of us expected him to be, and yeah, just driving his clean race, has now managed to get back up there. We have Fogarth's teammate, thankfully currently sitting in P3, so Turner with a solid drive currently sitting in P3, but followed really closely by Jose Guzman. So Guzman, you know, we've talked about it on stream, these Guzman brothers have phenomenal race pace. So Guzman just 1.9 seconds back now, and we'll see if he's able to close the gap on Turner and make things a little bit more exciting within the last few minutes of the race here.
I'm reading chat, and it looks like Jitesh Katkar his game crashed, which is why his car was parked on the side of the track there. So again, technical difficulties plaguing some of these drivers.
Sniper Nova and W Sadat currently side by side. Sniper Nova backs out of the position. Battle for another day, but really close fighting for that top 20 spot there.
Big concern for Sniper Nova is that you have P1 just 2 seconds behind you. So yes, you want to battle to try and get position, but you have to be respectful of those blue flags. Looks like a battle between Toad and Kyle Martin is getting a little spicy.
Yeah, Kyle Martin's trying to track down Toledo here, and Toad, I think, just got caught in not in any sort of collision, but was stuck behind the spray of Martin and completely missed his braking point and just went super deep into turn 1.
Martin putting his nose in there up onto Toledo, trying to get in there before the long straight.
Oh
no!
No, and just had such a better run than Toledo, and looks like Martin is he's slowing down. He doesn't know what to do right now. It's a super unfortunate incident, but Toledo dropped way back, and Toledo's probably fighting with a little bit of damage there, getting passed by a couple of cars here. Hisham Rimska gaining another position and overtakes there. So.
He absolutely plowed the sidewall there, so he's going to be having quite a bit of damage to try and finish this race out. The question is, do you limp it around or get it fixed? All Kyle Martin can do is just keep his head down and forget what happened and try and continue to maximize the rest of your race. There's only 5 minutes left, so see what you can do with it, knowing full well that you might have a penalty looming over your head.
You know, jumping back on board with Guzman, we have Guzman followed really closely now by Colin Shea. So Colin Shea has closed the gap within a second. Meanwhile, Guzman still within about a second and a half of Turner. So the battle for third continues to progress, and just 4.5 minutes to go. We have 3 drivers all within fighting position for that final podium spot.
Colin Shea's last lap was about a second faster than Guzman, so he is catching it. He's got time to make something work here.
He absolutely does, and meanwhile, a driver behind them as well, Osborne, set his fastest lap of the session with a 2:05.9. So Osborne putting in the work, trying to catch back up onto this battle too. So we could have a 4-car shootout for the final podium spot in another lap or two here, and there's still probably about 2 laps to go. Meanwhile, Damiani, after his drive-through, still in P9, but tracking down the other Guzman, Carlos Guzman, ahead, just 1 second back now. Jumping back over to the positions gained throughout the course of the race, we have Osborne, who just mentioned is currently up 11 positions. And Kaya, now in P11, is up 20 positions. So Kaya up 20 positions, Hisham Rimsk up 19 positions. sitting in P15. So some major moves up the field. Unfortunately, Tyrell Foster has dropped down to P23, but still has gained 12 positions over the course of the race. So something to be said for that. Unfortunately, came through with a drive-through and had a couple of issues in between, but up 12 positions, sitting in 23rd.
That just goes to show you that, yeah, you might have pace to align yourself in the pro division, but the pros just typically put a full race together. The AM division is a great learning grounds for pit stop strategies, fuel calculations, tire choice, brake pad choice, and overall consistency, keeping out of those penalties and putting together a solid 1 hour experience.
I mentioned this in Silverstone, but I think a lot of the pros have experience with these longer sessions, and even in the practice server, maybe dedicate a little bit more time and get used to the car with full fuel and these longer stints where consistency is maybe a little bit more important than just your hot lap pace. I think AMs might end up putting a fast single lap in practice, but haven't practiced for an hour stint, and when it comes to these races, they come out pushing 100% and maybe go wide a few times and pick up a drive-through, or maybe lose their cool and miss their braking point and lose it into the back of another car, taking out both of them. And that really ends up being the difference between the pro drivers and the AM drivers, where these races are an hour long. You kind of got to practice your consistency over a long period of time, along with that raw pace to really make a push in these hour-long races.
Are you inferring that the pro drivers are sweaty? Because you're right. Speaking from experience.
Just on board
got 1
for
minute left, boys.
Just on board with Guzman and Turner. Guzman just 0.2 seconds back from Turner, so he has been making headway throughout the course of the last few minutes, and he's making that push for that final podium position. Turner holding on for dear life at the moment. They're in the exact same car, so this is, and you know what? Shea is trying to join the battle too, trying to get into that slipstream. So you have 3 McLarens with all pretty much equal pace, fighting for that last podium spot. And Taflovich, let's see where Taflovich is on the track. Taflovich is already through the majority of sector 3, so Taflovich might come across the line before we hit 0 seconds, which would mean a whole nother lap of racing.
It would be advantageous for him to stop before the line because he's got plenty of time, but he's going through it. So we're doing another lap with 1 second left on the clock. 1 second left,
and Taflovich says he wants more racing. And you know what? Thank you, because it means that we get to enjoy, a couple of cars off the track. That's going to be pretty dangerous. And look at Guzman trying to send it up the inside of Turner. Oh my goodness, they might have been
as close as it gets.
Millimeters apart there. Wow.
They find themselves in McLaren sandwich led by a Wonder Bread car.
Colin Shea looks like he went off track, so Colin Shea definitely wanted to finish up that. Actually, you know what? They're not even at the finish line yet, but Colin Shea has just dropped back to P7 after spinning out. Not too sure if he came across a back marker. Guzman on the front straight now, still directly behind Turner, so he's not given up this fight quite yet. 1 lap to go. Taflovich currently on the back stretch already, a whole 22 seconds up. I'm going to stay on board with Guzman for now, though, because this is as thrilling as it gets for last lap battles.
Now you have to weigh. Are you going to be aggressive and potentially cause an incident that ruins your race?
Oh no. What happened to Guzman and Damiani? They're both coming into the pits, and the race isn't even over yet.
We'd say that Guzman tags Turner and spins him around. They both slow down, and then that just brings everyone back into the mix.
Oh my goodness. And Osborne just picked up a drive-through for that. What on earth? Man, Taflovich.
He's avoiding an absolute headache from that incident, and then he picks up a penalty? That is just unfair.
Oh my goodness, what just happened? You have
a huge wrench in the scenario.
sorry, jumping back on board with Taflovich. I know we want to get back to that action, but Taflovich finishing up the final corner here, coming across the final stretch, and your round 2 race winner, Taflovich, proving why he should have been on the podium last week if it weren't for penalties. Round 2, France picks up the AM race win. Congratulations, Taflovich. I'm going to quickly jump back on board. Down the road, looks like things have spread out a little bit. Busick now down the front stretch. Picks up another podium. Busick, 2 podiums in a row. That's P2. And Osborne a solid 22 seconds back, but unfortunately has a drive-through. So 22 seconds back, has the drive-through. That's going to be about a 30-second time penalty once he comes across the line.
I think if he finishes the race with a drive-through, it's a 180-second penalty.
I believe that's the stop-go. Yeah, so stop-go 30 is 180. 30. Okay. Yeah. Guzman.
That hurts, man.
Close behind, followed by Kyle and Arnold, and Daihy ended up managing to climb his way back up the field, finishes P6. Colin looks like he span out. Oh no, Colin's out of fuel. So Colin is out of fuel.
If you don't finish this lap, you get placed behind every single driver that manages to finish this lap.
Colin is probably begging for a teammate to come push him along, but I unfortunately do not know who Colin's teammate is. And
looking like some help here. Oh, this is something to see. What is going on?
Wait, did that car just go through him?
The car just went through his other car.
Oh, no.
That car did just go through him.
Just when he thought salvation was coming. Oh my goodness. You can't make this stuff up.
You really can't. Man, folks, I'm sorry we got so distracted there. Just gonna quickly pop open the leaderboard here so everyone can see what was going on. 30-second penalty to Osborne, so even though he's listed as P3 right now, he's going to drop down 30 seconds. 30 seconds at the moment, 47 seconds back. Excuse me, looks like it might only drop him down to P6 or P7, so not the worst, but probably wanted to get on the podium, and I'm losing my voice.
Does the 30-second penalty for Osborne? Yeah, it sends him back quite a bit. Where does he end up with that?
Well,
I think he'll slot in right behind Daihy. Between Daihy and Rowley.
P3. Yeah, who's our P3 then?
It would have been Guzman. So Guzman jumps up to P3. Followed by Daihy. Actually, you know what? Goodness gracious. I think the app has already Alright, so Taflovich from Busick and Osborne and Guzman. So Guzman, I believe, jumps up to P3.
Makes sense. Well, we have some, before we bring on the podium drivers here, who do you have as your driver of the day?
You know, I didn't give him a lot of screen time, but the climb for Hisham up 23 positions. He's currently, I believe he ended up crossing the line in P13, P12, but that's a great drive from him, and for starting the pit lane, I'd say that's a job well done.
I couldn't agree more. I'm going to have to give him my vote also. It's always a dagger when you start from the pit lane by mistake, and he was able to clear his conscience and put a really great race together.
I'm also on Team Rimzik here. There's something to be said about starting from the pit lane in a wet race, climbing your way from the back up to P12 maybe finish. Regardless, incredible drive from him. Like we talked about all night, consistency and keeping it on track, maintaining just below the edge of that limit. That's all you need to do here. People will make mistakes. They will get penalties. There will be incidents ahead. if you keep your head down and stay focused, you'll climb your way no problem. So, huge shout out to Rimzik. I'll give him my driver of the day for sure.
Good deal. So I'm thinking we bring in Jess Osborne first, just for an interview. And what's up, Tyler?
Hey, we have your podium finishers in the interview. I've got Jess and Jose in there because Jess got that drive-through at the very end for avoiding an incident. So I don't know if you wanted to talk to him after you.
We want to bring him in and see where his head's at after that tragedy.
So I'll let you guys talk to whoever you want to in whatever order. They're all ready to go.
Good deal. Thank you. Jess, you hate to see it.
I loathe to see it. In fact, stop the count. I am petitioning a recall. Please donate to my recall funds. But yeah, that was a crazy race. A lot cleaner than I expected. But wow, it was totally hairy. I feel a little cheated, not just because of the penalty at the end, but why is my car so slow? Did anybody see that? Get a clean, like the car in front of me. Even though I had the slipstream, I maintained the distance, and the Mercedes behind me, he goes flying by. But yeah, other than that,
The life of a BMW driver on my friend. It hurts.
Stable through corners and preying on the straights. But fortunately, that group through the corners gave me quite a few really good close fights, going side by side through 2 corners straight, at least twice. I hope y'all caught it. So I had a great race. I hope the stewards do the right thing. I know where you live.
One can hope.
Jess, great race. It was a pleasure
Thanks,
watching you on stream, and I feel your pains for the slow on the straights. I was a sitting duck yesterday as well.
Yeah, man. Thanks. See
All
ya.
right, take care, Jess.
Thank you.
All right, well, bring Jose in here. Actual P3 as it stands right now, so I'll bring him in here.
Hey, Jose.
Yo.
Welcome to the podium finishers. There might be a bit of a challenge, but at the moment you're currently sitting P3 after
I know
penalties.
that was I thought I had a little more room, and I just like kissed his rear end.
Oh, not necessarily talking about that. We'll see if that one ends up actually getting reported or not. But
But the 30-second with the penalty for the drive-through for avoiding the
precisely.
Bingo.
But Jose, there, regardless of where you finish, you had an absolutely amazing drive. You're a fantastic driver to ride on board with. You and your brother continue to give us a fantastic show. So it's been great watching you, and this track and these conditions pretty tricky, and you showed that you still had the pace here. How did you feel on driving the wet conditions today?
I felt very confident in it, actually. I was riding some curves that most people wouldn't. I felt like I had the car. I'm actually running a dry setup with just the wet tires. So it's a pretty low wing setup. So I had a decent speed, and I felt I could control the car with the wet, even with the slides and everything. The braking points in the final hairpin was very tricky, but other than that, the car felt pretty stable throughout the whole track.
I hope everyone was listening to that. Note to self, run a dry setup next rain race.
On Paul Ricard. Some other tracks require cement.
10 out of 10 do not recommend it for bathers. But for Paul Ricard,
risk versus reward.
I took a big risk with it, and I felt pretty confident during the practice race and everything. I was running pretty decent. I think I was on pace to finish P6 in the practice race, but I had a little incident with Dave, so I dropped down to P9. But running within some of the pros in the wet, I've actually done okay in wet races. Wet races are fun. I like them.
Well, you showed us a fantastic job, and thank you for joining us in the booth today, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I'm going to bring in our P2 finisher, Bradley Busick here.
Nice.
Bradley,
Hello.
some say if you ain't first, you're last, but I think you could be pretty happy with P2.
I got pretty lucky with that one. It just kind of fell in my lap.
Yeah, we were watching
tell
you
us about
at. Oh, sorry, Doug.
No, I was going to say, tell us about it. I mean, it was unfolding for you. You had some good pace, but Taflovich was just pulling away. But at the end of the day, 2 weeks in a row, really providing a really solid performance.
Yeah, I mean, so beginning I thought I was going to get P2. I got him right off the bat, and then just the straight line speed of that BMW was terrible. Everyone was passing me on the straight, so I think I got to like 6. And then I even messed up my pit stop, but it wasn't terrible. And then it looks like there was a lot of fighting at the front, and it took the other out. Fortunate, but got me on the podium.
Another podium, back-to-back podium finishes. Do you think the form is going to carry on throughout the course of the season?
I think I get extra ballast now, so
You will be the first receiver of a back-to-back ballast this season.
yeah,
Congratulations.
that'll be real great. But no, I mean, I've been practicing quite a lot. I only have, like a couple hundred hours in games. Every time we do a new track, we're kind of learning it a little bit. So putting in a lot of hours, and hopefully it shows for the rest of the season.
Without a doubt, we were talking about earlier with Evan that the more practice the amateur division puts in, the slimmer the gap between the AM and the pro pace gets. So
Yep.
it's definitely showing with your abilities on track. So kudos, my friend.
Yeah, thanks. Well, good. Day.
Thanks for joining us today, Bradley, and good luck for your next race.
Last but not least, we have Dave Pavlovich, the Triple Crown winner. Let's move him up here. Pole, fastest lap, and P1. How does it feel?
That was pretty fun. It was even more funny when Tyler told me I ruined half of the grid by going an extra lap.
Yeah,
You watched in absolute horror as you crossed the line with 1 second left. And then the rest of the top 10 melted.
It's tragic. Yeah, I had no idea, bro. I was just I was like going on autopilot. I didn't really think about it.
Evan,
Yeah.
give him the breakdown.
Dave, behind you, there must have been, 5 cars involved in a traffic jam going into the back straight, and there was a drive-through penalty given for avoiding action outside the track limits. There was positions traded, absolute chaos there behind. And yeah, you were on the other side of the track, but wow, man, I bet you they're betting, one more lap to go, push, and then absolute mayhem. We'll have to watch the replay on that one, but kudos on P1, absolutely drove away with it. And yeah, good to see you up here after an unfortunate week 1, but finding your way to where I think you belong.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Did it cross your mind? Do I slow down and just cross the line and make this the last lap?
No, I had no idea. I was literally just cruising. Somebody in my race chat even said something about it, and I was like, haha, because I thought they meant like a joke so they could like catch up and race with me. So I just kept driving, and then it turns out it wasn't a joke.
The mind of a winner, ladies and gentlemen. Head down, full steam ahead, 100% of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I finished when the guy said race over. That's about it.
Congratulations, Dave. Thank you for joining us up here, and yeah, cannot wait to see what you can do throughout the course of this season, because we were all rooting for you for last race, and pit stops kind of took that away from us, but glad to see you up here.
Thank you, boys. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
You too.
Thank you to
Adios,
everyone who
adios.
has joined us tonight. Really appreciate all the viewers, all the comments throughout the course of our stream. Make sure you like, subscribe. We're going to be doing this every single week, twice a week for both the Pro and AM division. For those that don't know, the Pros drive on Tuesday nights at the exact same time. So if you don't have any plans next week, make sure to tune in, and we'll be right here with you once again. Just want to also say thank you to Evan and Doug for joining myself in the broadcast booth. You guys made it one heck of an easy job this evening, so thank you both.
Happy to be here. crazy race. And like I said, we'll have to watch the replay of that last lap. Absolute mayhem there. I'm sure the stewards will have some work to do tonight and maybe into tomorrow morning if figure out what our finishing order there was. But yeah, awesome to watch. Love seeing action, and like we said earlier, this was a surprisingly clean race given the conditions and our AM field. I think job well done for everybody with respectful racing and providing a show for us that was really enjoyable.
On that note, thanks for letting me crash y'all's party. I had an absolute blast, and I concur with Evan. I am super proud of the M division and their ability to keep a clean race together for the most part. And overall, couldn't be happier. And I think I hear off in the distance the sounds of many tickets opening, but like Kevin said, the steward's problem, not ours. And we can hang that up with absolute bliss. So thanks for having me, boys.
All right, everyone. Take care. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers.